The skies above Nibiru were ablaze with streaks of light as the great fleet lifted from the planet's scorched surface. From the trembling soil, citizens watched their god-scientists, warriors, sages disappear into the firmament aboard ships forged of celestial alloys and sacred geometry. These starcrafts, crafted by the finest minds in Anunnaki history, were not merely machines, but living vessels, attuned to the frequencies of space and time. At the center of the formation soared Eka, the great flagship named after the mountain house of the gods. Its hull shimmered with molten gold plating, a symbol of both their power and their purpose. It was commanded by Enlil, whose mind was sharp as a blade, and whose heart beat with duty. Alongside him was Enki, monitoring the arcane instruments and quantum pathways, guiding the fleet not just across the stars but across fate itself. The voyage had begun. They plunged into the black sea of space, past the swirling belt of comets and cosmic ice, past the quiet watch of distant moons and gas giants with storms older than memory. Nibiru faded behind them like a dying ember, and ahead somewhere beyond the glare of the sun waited Ki, Earth a world alive and untouched. For the Anunnaki, travel across the void was no simple flight. Though their ships could bend the fabric of reality and ride the flow of gravitational currents, the journey was fraught with peril. Space, they knew, was not empty. It pulsed with energy, with ancient echoes, with unseen intelligences older than light. They passed through wormholes carved by previous expeditions, through dimensional gateways marked with sigils only the high scientists could understand. Inside the ships, time moved differently. On board Eka, the crew entered a state of their consciousness merged with dream simulations, while the vessel performed its cosmic ballet. Yet Enki remained alert, his mind awake in the sacred chamber, surrounded by glowing glyphs and whispering frequencies. He studied the Earth's signal, its electromagnetic heartbeat, its magnetic field. He listened to its hum as if it were a living being calling across the void. Enlil, meanwhile, remained focused on discipline and strategy. He reviewed protocols, evaluated landing procedures, and prepared contingency plans. He trusted Enki's science, but distrusted his sentiment. Enki had a tendency to form bonds with creations, with experiments, even with species they encountered. Enlil feared that weakness might jeopardize the mission. Among the crew, whispers passed like echoes in the dark. Some spoke of the Ajiji, those who stayed behind, tasked with holding Nibiru together while the elite journeyed forth. Would they remain loyal? Others spoke of Ki, the blue planet, and what awaited them there. Was it inhabited? Was it safe? Would it welcome them or reject them? They passed the outer rim of the solar system and entered the domain of planets known only through projection. Neptune, veiled in cold winds. Uranus, tilting awkwardly like a wounded sentinel. Saturn, with its golden rings that shimmered strangely as they passed, almost as if singing. And Jupiter, giant, king, protector, its massive gravity well threatened to pull the fleet off course. But Eka held steady, its harmonic shields resonating in perfect opposition to the pull. And then they saw it, Earth-Ki, the third planet from the sun, cradled between fire and frost. As the ships approached, the crew fell into silence. Before them spun a sphere of unimaginable beauty. Vast blue oceans glittered in the sunlight, white clouds curled across green continents, and golden deserts shimmered like fields of fire. It was alive in every sensor world, not yet scarred by industry, not yet burdened by knowledge. To the Anunnaki it was more than a destination. It was a chance. Enki was the first to speak as the Earth filled the viewing screen. He described it not with technical terms, but as a living organism. She breathes, he whispered, and her pulse is strong. His scans confirmed an abundance of gold veins of it running beneath mountains and riverbeds, scattered across lands, yet to be touched by intelligent hands. Enlil, however, saw something else. A wild world, untamed, chaotic, dangerous. He saw storms that spanned oceans, tectonic plates that ground continents together, and volcanoes that breathed fire into the sky. This was no paradise. This was a battlefield waiting to be claimed. And so, his mind turned not only to extraction but to control. As the fleet entered Earth's orbit, Enki guided the vessels into a holding pattern, calculating optimal landing zones based on terrain, magnetic stability, and proximity to gold deposits. The southern plains, where rivers met and the climate was gentle, were chosen as the first outpost. This land would come to be known, millennia later, as Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. The ships descended slowly, cloaked in electromagnetic shields that scattered clouds and left shimmering trails in the sky. Trails that ancient people would later describe in myths as serpents of fire or gods riding lightning. They touched down with elegance, displacing no trees, disturbing no beasts. The Anunnaki came not with conquest but with purpose. As the ramps descended, the air filled with strange scents of salt and soil, of ozone and life. Birds flew overhead, unaware of the gods now walking beneath them. Enlil stepped onto Earth's soil first, marking the ground with a sigil of authority. Enki followed, kneeling to press his hand into the dirt, feeling its energy vibrate through his fingers. He smiled. "She is ready," he said. Over the next days, the Anunnaki constructed their first city Erido. It was both temple and laboratory, fortress and observatory. From there, they would begin their mission, the extraction and refinement of gold to be transported back to Nibiru. But as they labored, as machines awakened and the sky shimmered with invisible energy, a strange feeling settled over them. Earth was not just a resource. It was speaking to them, mind, wind, and wave, in the movements of stars, in the pattern of animal migrations. Enki listened. Enlil did not. And so it began. The Anunnaki had arrived. They had crossed the stars to save their world. But in doing so, they had set into motion events that would alter the fate of another. Because Earth, too, had a destiny. And now, its story and theirs were forever intertwined.